And there's a place that I've dreamed of, where I can free my mind. I hear the sounds of the season and lose all sense of time. Feels like we're in a dream, you know what I mean.
Right there, Camp McIntosh.
Looking forward to seeing all of you at Camp McIntosh for our 5th annual CFN retreat. As it is right now, both Horwood and Camp McIntosh are about halfway full. So if you are interested, please reach out to both Warren and Doris at Horwood Lake, and of course Tracy and Andre at Camp McIntosh to get your butt booked in a bed. Love to see you guys there. It's always a lot of fun, and we always have some really cool prizes to give away as well. So by all means, don't hesitate, don't delay. Hopefully we can get you up there in both cases and enjoy a great time as we always have. Rob, how you doing tonight? Nice to have you along. Lloyd's in the house. How you doing? Sonia, yeah, baby. Nice to have you as well. Joe's in the house. Good to see you. There's Sarah. How's Sarah? Sarah okay tonight? Nice to see you, Sarah. Nice to have you around. Steve Shaw's in the house, as always, doing what he does best, which is support me and the rest of you CFNers. Can't thank you enough for all that. Richard's in the house. May's here. Thanks for sharing, May. Really appreciate that. Dean Howard's with us. Trisha Wallace. Yes, sir. Wow, we got lots of ladies tonight. It must be ladies' night. Is it ladies' night tonight? Yeah, of course it's ladies' night. Christian, how you doing? Nice to have you along as well. Some great folks joining us here tonight. Fantastic. What? 2 spots left? Oh, whoa. Okay. Wasn't expecting that. 2 spots left. Holy smokes. Thanks, Warren. Appreciate that. Eve, how you doing, my friend? Always a pleasure to have you. Mark's in the house as well. As I mentioned, it is ladies' night, and we do have quite a guest host and guest star tonight that's going to be joining us. We're going to be talking a little bit about kayak angling. In fact, it's probably a lot about kayak angling. But, of course, we're going to have Angela Haapa with us to talk about that. But before we do, let's bring in the one and only Yvonne Brown. How you doing, Yvonne? Always a pleasure to have you as my guest host for yet another edition of Ladies' Night.
It's good to see you, Scotty. Been a little while.
It has.
Nice
It has.
Back
What have you been busy with?
Grandkids. I know I say
Yeah.
that all the time, but I mean, I can't get enough of them. You know.
So true. So true. I know your ladies have been very, very busy scheduling events. I would have to say that the event package for 2026 is almost double what it was in 2025. Your ladies are just, I'm telling you, they're kicking arse and taking names with all these events that they're doing. It's awesome to see. Yeah.
We had a really good meeting like October it was, and planned everything for 2026. You can find all the events on our website, and not 100% of the locations and dates are confirmed yet, but we have we're confident that we're going to do it as much as we possibly can. Things do come up, and sometimes like bad ice or whatever, we have to cancel. But our 2026 membership, they're on sale now. And if you buy your membership between now and December 31st, you're entered into a free draw. It's worth about $330 this year. It's got like a tackle box and an ice fishing rod and a whole bunch of different OWA swag. And you need to have a membership to join most of our events. We have our ice fishing events out. We are also doing a joint event with Lori-Ann Horst and the Canadian Sportswoman Society, an awesome club. She does a fantastic job in doing a number of events. So that's going to be up on Nipissing. It's going to be the ice bungalows I attended last year, had a lot of fun. We have our Perry Sound weekend. That's the first weekend in February up at the Rumble Camp for the Deaf. We will also have an intro to fishing event. That's going to be up at Elbow Lake, just north of Kingston. And then we're going to have a virtual sort of fam jam ice fishing day. It's like a fun derby, and people can fish in their backyard. Basically, they don't have to go too far. So
That's awesome.
after that, you get it. What's that?
To see what I mean? Like you guys are busy, man. Holy crap. Well done, ladies.
Yeah. And of course, we'll be at like the Toronto Sportsman Show. We're going to do an intro to fishing workshop there. It's going to be free with show admission. And we'll have a booth again. And we will also be at CanCast. We're going to have a booth again there. Looking forward to trade shows.
CanCast is going to be a big show this year. Toronto Sportsman Show as well. Yeah. And Brad and I are hopefully going to be making an announcement by the end of this week in regards to where we're going to be placed and how that's all going to unfold for some very lucky vendors that are going to have an opportunity to be in a show like that that they wouldn't normally have or be able to afford. So we're really excited about that. And of course, CanCast with the Muskie Odyssey joining along. There's now 3 buildings. Like it's just incredible how this little show has grown. And of course, you've been front and center. I've certainly had the privilege of watching it grow as well. But Kyle and his team have done a fantastic job to build that show up. And I tell you, they're reaping the rewards. It's awesome to see.
Yeah. One thing, I was just watching your promos there. Camp McIntosh, Tracy Dupuis reached out when she knew about our Christmas event. And she offered a free weekend for 2 up. Instead of just having the raffle at the Christmas event, we opened it up to all of our members. So on our website, they can purchase raffle tickets. We're going to be having the draw, I think it's the 22nd. I'll have to double check. But if you've been a 2025 or 2026 member, you can purchase tickets for the draw.
Awesome stuff. As I said, the good folks up there at Camp McIntosh are always in a giving mood and certainly like to give back to the communities that funnel them traffic, funnel them new clients. And I know they're completely booked up. So the hardest part about some of these free trips that they're giving out is I don't know where they're going to put them. They're booked, like their season is pretty much booked solid. So but they continue to give, and we truly appreciate it and appreciate their generosity. Now I have to ask, Angela Haapa, where did you meet her? And holy smokes, you weren't kidding when it came to content. This girl's got it going on.
Yeah. Okay. I believe she's been with us for 2 years, I think. I know, like I've seen a lot of her videos and photos and things like that. She does an incredible job of sort of documenting, I guess, her kayak trips out. I love, she's quite creative in the way she shoots some of her footage, different lenses or different angles. I'm not sure what. I'm really still kind of point and shoot. Can't even take selfies, You need to take a course on how to take a selfie. So, so it just really caught my eye. And she's been to a few of the events, like I said, and just very, very interesting to talk to. And I like watching her. I like following her on social media. And she's a big kayak fisherman, fisher person. And I know that is a growing interest in our club. So I just wanted to come and have her share her experiences and her her approach to social media.
Well, without further ado, let's have Angela describe it for us as we introduce Angela to CFN. How you doing tonight, Angela?
Just fabulous.
Well, it is an honor to have you here. And as I said, I had the luxury. Yvonne shared a lot of your material with me so I could get it ready for tonight. And I will say there are some videos that I can't wait to share. That's all little snippets, but it's just a vantage point that you're taking it from. And of course, you're empowering that Insta360 technology, which really gives you a really cool perspective. And there's one video before we get started that I really want to share because I really like this. This was really cool, really well done. it kind of looks like a drop of water, but as you watch it sort of evolve, like it just, I don't know, it seems to broaden out into this incredible portrait. So I don't know if you did that by design or if it was by accident, but well done.
It's it's all in the camera. It's quite amazing, the features that it does have with it, and a lot of it is the editing, and it does take a little bit of a learning curve to. I'm no expert by any means, but it does require a little bit more effort than your average GoPro, because there's so many different angles and views, and yeah, but it makes it, gives you that third person perspective, right? Rather than just watching
Mhm.
someone sit in their kayak stationary, right?
100%.
So
100%.
what type of equipment are you filming with?
It's just it's called the Insta 360. So it has a camera on the front and the back.
Oh,
So, and it's just on a selfie stick. I mean, I do put my selfie stick in different spots on the kayak to give it a different angle. So that particular one was, I had it mounted in the back for a little bit. So
Cool
yeah.
wow.
stuff. Very cool. So as we start with every guest star that we have that joins us here on Ladies Night, I'm always fascinated. Where did angling start for you? Who was it that introduced it to you? And was there
Oh,
a really cool memory that went along with it that you can share?
well, it's I'm a northern girl, born and raised in Thunder Bay. So there's not much to do up there. Um, and it was my older brother. My older brother Rick got me out on the lake, and he was the one who got it all started for me when I was younger. And as life goes, women's priorities change over the years, and you kind of lose focus on yourself. You focus on your family, your job, and as life goes on, you start to find yourself again. You find what's,
Mhm.
makes you happy, gives you joy, gives you peace, gets you grounded again. And for me, that was just getting back fishing again. So
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And I have to ask, obviously you probably started like most, you were a dock angler, then you probably graduated into boat angling, maybe shore angling
yeah.
was where you started. But what drew you to kayak fishing? Was it that you tried it once, really liked it, and just wanted to do it again?
Well, I started off, like you said, we did the bank, we did the shore fishing, did boat fishing. I actually fished a women's professional bass circuit down in the States for a few years. It's sponsored by ESPN, and it only ran for a few years, but I did that. And then unfortunately, I got ill twice. And yeah, I had cancer twice, and I just found that after the first time, getting back on the water was something that just grounded me and gave me focus and gave me something else to look forward to, right? The second time around was a little bit, a little bit more of a serious situation, and I that just drew me right back onto the water again. I could forget about everything else I was going through. Nothing else mattered. You put that fishing rod in your hand, and that's all you worry about.
Mhm. But how many
I
years
couldn't have said
back
it
did
better
you?
myself. Go ahead, Yvonne. Sorry.
How many years back did you start kayak angling?
Kayak angling about 8 years ago. So I was shore fishing, and I just didn't, it just wasn't doing it for me
Mhm.
anymore. Life changes, and I no longer had that bass boat. So um, I decided, I needed to get on the water. And at the time, I had no idea there was this whole world of kayak fishing. Didn't occur to me. I started looking into it. I bought a used kayak off of Kijiji, went and threw it, went and found it. It was about 2 hours away, came home with it, and it was the greatest thing ever until you try and paddle that thing out on Lake Simcoe, and it wasn't fun. So then I realized I needed something, you know, I needed to upgrade a little bit. So I ended up
Yeah.
going with the pedal drive kayak,
Mhm.
which makes a world of difference when you're,
Yes.
yeah.
I've
That's
only
awesome.
kayak fished once. I
It's
was like, this
it's
is too much work.
well, you know what? It's not. It is work when you're paddling. It
Yeah.
definitely is a lot of work. If you have pedals, your hands free. You're
Mhm.
casting and pedaling, and I don't a lot of guys upgrade, and they put motors on their
Mhm.
kayaks. I'm not interested in that. I just want to, be able to throw the kayak in the back of my truck, go down to the lake, and be in the water in 15 minutes. I don't want to have to worry about motors and extra
Yeah.
batteries and, trying to keep it a little bit simple.
And you
Mhm.
do a fantastic job of that. I just based on the short amount of content that I've shared. Um, do you love the tranquility of being out there on the water by yourself? Is that something that really drew you to kayak fishing?
It's very grounding for you to be, out on the water first thing in the morning. The birds are chirping, the frogs are croaking, you know, it's just something different than, driving 100 miles an hour on a glass lake in a bass boat. It's just something about being so close to the water, and I think you're more in tuned to your surroundings. And it is very peaceful.
That's
Nothing
awesome.
else matters. The world could be crumbling around you, and you wouldn't know it.
Now,
Yeah.
when it comes to fish species, because of course, you've talked about bass, which, as Big Jim, if he was here, would tell you, it's a great way to make money. Um, tournament angling for bass. But is there a species that you enjoyed catching, sort of early on that drew you into angling, that you pursued and really focused on getting better at targeting them?
I would say lake trout is something, my brother introduced it to me when I was a kid. Um, and it was a lot of fun trying to reel in some of those Lake Superior Lakers, when you're 12 years old. So I kind of got off of that because it's just, it's a little bit more challenging to get out into the bigger waters
Mhm.
and that in the kayak. But once I got this kayak that I currently have, then I started to spend a bit more time uh, targeting them, and it's like playing a video game when you're out there for them. I jig for them. I don't troll. I may troll if I'm going from A to B. I'll throw something in the water
Mhm.
and troll behind me, but mainly I'm jigging for them. So it's like playing a video game.
Amen.
Sometimes it's a long, drawn out video game, and other times it's Donkey Kong, right? You're
Yeah.
having a good time.
Do you have you participated in any competitive kayak angling yet?
I have. I've done some tournaments. I've
Hmm.
done, a few online tournaments with Kayak Bass Canada. I've done a lot of those, which I know CFN is now, hooking up with them. So that's,
Hmm.
a great venture for both of yous with that. I've done a lot of kind of charity events um, locally around here.
That's good.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Absolutely. And I will say, based on the number of quality pictures and species of fish that you have caught, I would definitely say that you are a multi-species angler. And I know Gary asked what your
Yes.
favorite species is. You learned
Yeah.
with lake trout, but now that you've sort of honed your skills and become a bona fide kayak angler, I wouldn't go so far as to say professional, unless you are making money at
Mhm.
this. And good for you if you are. Is there a species that you've been introduced to that you truly admire and love more so than lake trout?
I would say crappie actually. It wasn't until I went up with the OA group and did the ice fishing event last year.
Mhm.
And I've never fished for crappie. It's not something that was on my radar. So, I did my research. I, watched a lot of videos, read a lot of articles, and yeah, once we got out there and got on the water, they're a lot of fun. They're really a
Yeah.
lot of fun to catch.
Amen. They're fun to eat too. Just
Yeah.
Oh
saying.
yeah.
Now, with that,
Yeah.
obviously there is I would an understanding when it comes to anglers, and especially if you're much like Yvonne and I, who do practice catch and release. And based on the videos that I saw, it is important to you. Are fish something that you enjoy to eat, or are you primarily a catch and release angler?
Fun fact, I don't eat fish.
Oh,
Wow.
No, not at all. Don't even go there. No. I even drove all the way out to the East Coast, had a nice fresh lobster. No, can't do it. I don't know.
No.
But yes, catch and
Wow.
release is very important to me. I mean, you got to let them go, let them grow. Unless, the only time I would keep them is if, they've been hooked a little too deep and they're not
mhm.
swimming back. So I will take them home, and I have some close friends who are very happy to take those fish off of my hands. So, but no, I'm strictly catch and release, and unless something catastrophic happens along the way.
Very cool. That is so cool. Wow.
Yeah.
If someone was just getting into kayak angling, and I don't really know a lot, like, I mean, the equipment, it's very standard as conventional fishing is, but the kayaks themselves, and I'm not looking for you to, like, promote one brand or another, but is there kind of a price range that people should look at in getting a good quality kayak, like one that people aren't going to regret after season one?
Right. So the kayak I have is more on the higher end.
Hmm.
It is an investment. Um, and some people say buy once, cry once. And but that wasn't my case. I didn't know if I was going to even like kayak angling. So I went out and I found one that was used,
Hmm.
and I found one that was, I did a little bit of research to try and find something that was going to be able to handle the waters I was fishing on. And once I realized this is it, this is what I want to do, I invested in what I have today. I have good friends that go out in a, $500 kayak you can get from Costco, and they come out with me, and they just do fine. You have to really pay attention to the weather. That is a huge, huge factor when you're out in a kayak.
Hmm.
And number two, always wear your life jacket. You want to go home to your family and your friends, right? You
Right.
don't want to be another story on the news. So, as long as you've got your life jacket on, you're paying attention to the weather. And depending on what body of water you're on, you got to pay attention also to the amount of boat traffic. You know,
Yes.
um, Simcoe, for instance, becomes Disneyland on the weekend. So
Mhm.
if you're going to go out, you go out early and you get off early before the shenanigans happen, because it can happen pretty quick out there.
True.
Yes.
So true. Is there a lake that you prefer, or body of water you prefer to fish than another?
Do you know what? I started off fishing Simcoe a lot, mainly because it was close to home, it was accessible, and well, Simcoe is an amazing fishery.
Yeah.
But I'm beginning not to, it's not my go-to anymore because of the boat traffic. It's
Yeah.
just becoming too much. I prefer to go and, explore some new lakes. I fished a lot of different lakes this past year. And going on lakes I've never fished before, and not knowing what's in there or what I'm after. So that's part of the challenge. So I tend to want to go away from crowds now, and just get some peace and quiet.
You can relate to that, right, Yvonne?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I understand. Like, especially around like Aurelia, and like it's crazy in the summer. I mean, I go. Well, I used to go perch fishing in the spring on Simcoe, and then ice fishing. But yeah, I've been up there like watching tournament weigh-ins, and just the boat traffic is crazy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm much. I look forward to the quieter back lakes, the little areas for ice fishing or whatever. I'm not really into the big, looks like tent city, you
Hmm.
know. I just and I don't think it makes for very good fishing either. Especially during ice season when there's a lot of foot traffic
Oh, for sure.
and augers going off and whatnot. I just more and more I enjoy the tranquil, the solitude. It's
It might be an age thing, Yvonne.
Yeah. Now, when it comes,
yeah,
to,
when you hit 39, I know.
yeah. When it comes to your kayak, and I know Yvonne sort of touched on it, you're going to stick with the pedal drive for now, anyway,
Yes.
until something better comes out. I'm sure, or perhaps you'll just stick with the pedal forever. In terms of other gadgets, maybe some modifications, or even the electronics, is there anything that your kayak doesn't have that you wish you had, or you're looking forward to add it at some point down the road?
You know, I'm on that fence about the old big debate about the forward-facing sonar.
Mhm.
You know, it is on my radar. I don't use it now. And I'm not sure if I actually do. I'm pretty happy with my setup right now. You know, it's not too extensive. It's, you know, a little bit more than basic, but it has everything that I need and I want. And I think the more you add to it, the more complicated it gets, the more it takes away from the actual experience when you're out there. You're worrying about too much rather than just enjoying being out there.
Mhm.
Makes
And I
And
perfect
don't
know,
get me wrong, if somebody said, here's a Mega Live, Angela, tell me how you like it, I would not. Just putting it out there, if anyone, you know, doesn't need theirs any longer, I'd be happy to test it for you.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Yvonne.
I forget.
When it comes to your 2026 season, because it looks like 2025 has been something to be proud of based just on the fish that we've seen
Yeah.
posted. Is there anything that you've got planned for 2026 that you're looking forward to?
You know, I think I'm debating whether I'm going to get back into, you know, doing a lot more live events, bit more tournaments. I'm on the fence of that. I haven't quite decided. I'm a very competitive person, even with myself. So sometimes, you know, it takes away from the experience because I get too competitive. So I think there'll be a few online events that I'm going to want to do. And I have my eye on a couple of live events that, you know, broaden my scope down here. You know, there's quite a few. The scene is growing, let's put it that way. So it's about managing your time off. Yeah.
Absolutely. I will say this, and it's almost posed to Yvonne as well, but you know, you're a part of two communities that, in my opinion, are growing exponentially. First and foremost, kayaking. Kayak angling is just exploding, and let's face it, you know, it probably has a lot to do with the price of things. It's a more reasonable, accessible way of getting out on the water than
For sure.
anything else. So you know, totally understand why it's growing, but the fact that it is growing in the right direction is fantastic to see. And then,
Right.
of course, women angling. You know, Yvonne and I have talked about this at great length, and I have to admire where you folks are, where you ladies have taken angling, and the community that you've built in the process. But are you satisfied where women angling is, or is there a next step?
Well, for me, I'm very happy to see the growth. I like to think that Ontario Women Anglers over the past 13 years has been a part of that and has gotten more women and children out on the water just through, even if it's just word of mouth or, you know, podcasts that we do like this to get people started or interested. I would like to see more representation of women when it comes to like on the retail side of it. I mean, we are a huge market. A lot of us work full time. We have money.
Women love to shop.
Yeah, we have money to shop. Yeah. And you know, I'm not going to retell the story, but I think we need to be taken more serious when we are out spending our dollars. Because I have had personally a couple of experiences where it's, they take me away from a $400 purchase to show me this rod and reel that's got baby blue accents on it, and it says Lady Angler or whatever it says. I think they should be taking us more serious, and they should understand that we have buying power. And there should be. Barb Carey from Wisconsin Women Fish is a huge advocate for getting women, shining the light on us more when it comes to advertising. A lot, like she said, she picked up fishing retailers magazine, and there were no women in it whatsoever. So she actually contacts companies to say, we're a growing part of this sport, and you need to represent us better.
One complaint that I hear from a lot of ladies, and it's right down your alley, what you're saying, Yvonne, is to your point, especially when it comes to garments and swag. DSG's done a fantastic job targeting women and in the outdoors, but a lot of companies are missing the mark, and they don't have a lot of women's sizes per se in a lot of their stuff. So to your point, you're 100% bang on, and I would say that Catherine's suggestion is probably how we get there. We need to see more women on sales teams. That kind of input is let's face it, it's important.
Mm-hmm.
Stryker does an amazing job with promoting women, and they have a fabulous line, whether it be summer wear, winter wear. You've got your ice suits, and they are fitted and designed for women. So they do a really great job with that.
That's awesome stuff. Any other companies that are really hitting the mark when it comes to exposing their goods to women anglers because it's suited to women anglers?
Well, I'm not sure about any other companies, but I know the Bassmaster series in the States has a they're really jumping on board with the Bassmast Her. So they have a few women that are out promoting the circuit down in the States. As far as Canada, we lack a little bit of that enthusiasm, let's say.
No, it's so true.
Yeah.
Yvonne, I'll give you the last question.
Are you coming to Prairie Sound?
Okay.
Because all those crappy that you throw back, you could be like directing them in my way.
Yes. Well, we might have to fight for that spot this year. Yes, I will be there.
Great. Good.
Yes.
Looking forward to that.
It's going to
And
be
I
a
will
great
have to
time.
say, my last question, Angela, for you is, it was asked of me, so I'm going to ask it of you. If there is some way, somehow, you want your life as an angler to be summed up, what do you want your legacy to be?
Ooh, I think my legacy will be, just to live in the moment. And, you got to just enjoy every day as it is, because we don't know if tomorrow's coming. We don't know if, what the future holds for us. So carpe diem, seize the moment. The dishes can wait. You get out there and you feed your soul, and, don't let anything or anybody hold you back. Just get out there. If there's one thing that, I hope that, my videos do is inspire people, to get out there, that there are no barriers for women when it comes to fishing. You just got to take that step. And if it's a baby step, that's great. You're going in the right direction. And that's what O is all about as well, is, helping those women and encouraging them that, they don't need their husbands, their fathers, their brothers. We got a whole group here that's going to help you get on your way, and we're going to give you the confidence. There's a lot of women who started off in these intro programs who are now just off and running with their own gear, and they're taking on people to go out with them now. So that's what it's all about.
And I notice a growing number of boaters now in our club, which is fantastic.
That's for sure.
Well, it's all because of you ladies that you continue to strive it and it basically open doors, open opportunities, if to say it even better, to women that may not have thought that they had these opportunities, that again have been misled that this is a male-dominated sport. As we have seen, it has grown into anything but. With certain advancements when it comes to clothing, wear, gear that can be suited to lady anglers. At the end of the day, the future looks very, very bright. And I tell you, I'm honored every time we do a ladies' night, because it reminds me of some of the incredible work that's being done behind the scenes to further angling and to get more folks involved, whether they're children, whether they're ladies, or anybody in between. So I thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. Yvonne, again, you've got a great guest star that you brought on that we got to learn.
He's a keeper.
Definitely a keeper. And I will say this, Angela, we really look forward to seeing more of your content here on CFN. So share away.
Share away. Well, you asked for it.
Right on.
I've got 3 memory cards I got to go through still this winter. So wish me.
That's the part that sucks, isn't it? The editing.
Yeah.
Hours and hours of video. Yeah, I know the feeling. Trust me, I know the feeling.
I tried to bait my son, but he ain't biting. He just doesn't want to have any part of it.
That's too bad. Well, hopefully you find an editor soon.
Yes.
On behalf of CFN, I want to wish you two a very happy holiday, a very Merry Christmas, and a very prosperous 2026 as the new year looms in the very near distance. So
same to you, Scotty.
Ladies.
Same to you, Scotty, and thanks for having me on tonight.
The pleasure was all ours, trust me.
True.
Thanks so much for this, ladies. We've got the panel coming up next, right after a word from our sponsor. Have a great evening, ladies.
Thank you. You too.
All right, lads, how we doing tonight?
Good.
What's up?
Right on. We don't have Big Jim with us tonight. Unfortunately, he had quite a day running around doing all kinds of things, errands, this, that, and everything else. So he is a little tired, a little beaten down. So we've decided to give him the night off. But it's unfortunate because we have a really cool topic, and I want to thank Jay for bringing it to our attention. But before we get into that, what'd you think of Angela?
I thought it was great, man. You have to sell me on kayak fishing and the sort of the positives of it. There's not many negatives of kayak, and some of the negatives are actually quite positive. So
Amen.
Yeah, it's great.
Amen. Lawrence, as someone that is a bit of a pioneer, in your own rights, it's awesome to see ladies angling get to that next level and to see the number of ladies associated with our angling community, with the fact that they're venturing off and doing meet and greets and competitions, and they've got the Master Angler program. Like, there's a whole lot going on in OWA and female anglers to boot. But it's awesome. It's awesome to see and be a part of it in our own little way.
It is, and you see, Ontario Women's Anglers started over 10 years ago, and just to introduce women to fishing, and now here they are, sort of facilitating and supporting women who are taking their love of fishing to the next level. Right? It's it's just so neat to see all this evolve.
Amen. All right. Well, the topic that we have brought tonight is something that I think is happening at a more alarming rate down in the States. And Jay, you can attest to this because you're the one that shared the article that we're going to be talking tonight. It is an article that was published in Wired to Fish. The author is Terry Brown, and it's his humble opinion that suggests tournament fishing is hanging on the edge of extinction as we know it. First and foremost, do you agree with that statement, Jay?
I think that extinction's a little harsh the way Terry's worded it that way, but I will say that tournament fishing as we know it in terms of, and we're talking about live boat bass tournaments. This is kind of the premise for his article. It's an opinion piece. And I think that, there's a lot of things happening in the industry, and the article itself too states like forward-facing sonar is not even at the top of his list. There's been a lot of issues with we've had cheating, we've had injuries, and unfortunately some mortalities associated with tournament fishing, and a lot of this is just kind of, it's changed the entire sort of market of tournament fishing, and he raises a lot of valid concerns about. And I think that these are things that people aren't talking about. I think that's why Terry wrote the article. But he draws from examples that we all know of in the recent media that's been going on the last couple of years, and tournaments are being canceled. And yeah, I thought it was a good piece. I thought it was kind of timely to talk about. So yeah, I agree. I value Terry Brown. Terry is a great writer. He's from Illinois. He's one of the founders of Wired to Fish. And if anyone, it's probably one of the best websites. It's probably the original, one of the OG websites for fishing information. It's very bass-centric, but there's also a lot of great walleye articles on there, ice fishing articles, and tips and tricks, but also tackle. They do great tackle reviews. But once in a while, they come up with these sort of prospectus pieces, and this is one of them. And I thought he really did a home run with it about awareness about this whole issue. So
agreed. So here's why we're talking about this. And in case you folks haven't known, here's what's happening. This is what has sort of led to this article being written. Quite a number of Alabama bass fishing tournaments have been getting canceled recently by those who host them. The most notable was the Black Friday Guntersville Open in November and Auburn University bass fishing team's final tournament at Lake Jordan. At the heart of the Alabama tournament cancellations is liability, stemming from those fresh in the mind tragic events where 3 men, I won't mention names, were killed in a boat collision during a Major League Fishing Tackle Warehouse Invitational Tournament in April. Pro bass fisherman Flint Davis was indicted on 3 counts of manslaughter following the boat crash, and it was a horrific boat crash. Lisa Little, widow of Jeffrey Little, filed a lawsuit against Major League Fishing, and that is what has brought us to where we are right now. Lawrence, when it comes to something like this, litigation is always something that we always worry about. But is this the systemic reason for these cancellations, or was this just a matter of time before something like this happened?
I don't know. Like, I think about some of the tournament clubs I was associated with, before I stepped away from a lot of that stuff. And a lot of those clubs aren't there anymore. And people just drifted away. And they sort of, the thrill of the chasing trophies and recognition and sponsorships. I think the first thing that happened was a lot of those sponsorships, were before the internet and social media. It was all about having, custom shirts with logos on them. That was the old school internet, right?
Yeah.
And then when internet and social media came along, and you didn't need to have a whole army of pro anglers wearing your logo out there to get your message across that you're the best in whatever industry you're in. You could just have 1 or 2 people that have really good social media followings doing all that work for you. So I think maybe that sort of took the took a little bit of the wind out of the sail of tournament fishing when a lot of these anglers lost their sponsorships and other anglers couldn't get sponsorships unless they were some sort of social media phenom and they had 100,000 followers. That sort of took the fun out of it. And then I think a lot of large fishing companies, they realized they could spend a lot of money on sponsoring local tournaments that, at the time of weigh-in, the only people there at the weigh-in were the people who were competing at the tournaments. And you really didn't get a whole lot of mainstream media coverage of these events. So they think, okay, why are we pouring our money into that? We can take that money and put it into some social media ads on Facebook and things like that. And I don't mean to be, I don't want to sound like I'm a negative guy here, but, when you have a limited marketing budget and you're thinking, okay, how can we get the most for our money? It's not about wanting to hurt people or hurt organizations. It's about, trying to make sure your brand is well represented and you're getting sales, right? Yeah. So there was a few things that sort of started tipping the dominoes, and in the end, you had tournaments that were sort of cut adrift, and it was just done on pay as you pay as you go, and you split the money with the organizer, and you have maybe 20 guys putting some money in the pot, kind of thing, 20 men and women. It got a little thin. The gruel got a little thin, right? And you're thinking, why am I doing all this? I'm spending all this money and taking all this time off work and doing all this pre-fishing and then for what, right? And then some hot shot just rides those trails and just plucks those checks, and you see that hot stick show up, and you think, oh well, there goes first place. I'm working for second place now, or there was a lot of that going on as well. And I think some of these tournament trails, they just collapse, right? Like the walleye one, the Ontario walleye one fell apart, and I think it's just tough. And then if you think, well, it's just a bunch of guys who just want to get together and go fishing, and you have that socialization aspect to it. Then you had all these Facebook groups. We had the forums, but now you got all these Facebook groups popping up, and everyone's sort of socializing through that. And then I don't know how much that impacted it, but I don't know. Maybe we're all just getting older and we just don't want to waste our money, or spouses are telling us, you're not spending more money on that.
That might be that might be the case. And you touched on a few topics. Terry goes on to say that the negativity, when it comes to tournaments, is front and center. And it basically that it's surrounding tournament fishing, and it started a few years back in his opinion, when they started controlling and eliminating access of public waters. That was number one. And then, of course, we don't necessarily see it as they do down in the States, because, of course, let's face it, their waterways are a lot busier than ours. But then it became the detrimental effects of spraying and vegetation eradication. But now he believes that it's this liability concern that unfortunately has been highlighted because of the incident that happened in Alabama. And unfortunately, as we all knew and we discussed as a panel, it was going to have long-reaching effects on how we move forward when it comes to tournaments. So as he says, whether you want to admit it or not, tournament fishing is under fire, and we are not helping ourselves. It's too much speed, too much money, and now, of course, we talk about cheating and all the drama that has come to tournaments. Although many want to point technology advancements, which he personally believes is hogwash, as the decrease in entry fees and just people entering these tournaments. Technology, in his opinion, is not at the forefront. Do you agree, Jay?
Yeah, I do agree, because I think that for the most part, technology amongst competitors, it's a pretty level playing field. Let's be honest. So everyone has access to the same technology and is using the same technology. Now, how you use that technology, that depends on your experience level. But reality is, and there are some new restrictions on technology, but they're not that restrictive. It just maybe it makes competitors have to be a little more, what I want to say, like a little more decisive in how they use it. But at the end of the day, everyone has access to the same technology when they're on the same, they're on the same field, right? So I think he's right in saying that technology is not really a deciding factor here. Now, maybe the argument could be made, Scotty, that because of the price of technology, that you could be pricing people out. But even prior to that, entry fees have been going up for a long time. Terry mentions that in the article. And so just the price of tournament fishing alone, just before you even put gas in the boat and gas in the truck, you know, the prices have gone up quite a bit in the last few years. And right there, that's a deterrent for a lot of anglers that way. You know, some of the most talented anglers that I know will never fish in a tournament, but they are excellent anglers. There's no doubt. They just won't fish competitively, and some of that is for financial reasons.
True enough. Steve makes a great comment. If Ray Scott hears us talking this way, he'd roll over. One of the things, and of course, Lawrence, you might not be, and I don't mean to be funny by any means, but one of the things that drew me to tournament angling, especially when it was starting to be broadcast on TV, is it was fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
I don't know if it is anymore. Is it still fun to watch? I know, Jay, you chime in and you watch as much as you can. Are these tournaments still as fun to watch as they were back when Ray Scott was running these tournaments?
I listened to it's my friends who run the bass tournaments, and they said that forward-facing sonar has really put a real boring twist into these tournaments for the non-boaters. Like if you have a boater non-boater format, you know that for the non-boaters, they're bored to tears. And they're not happy. And so there's that, you know, in terms of participation level. But I think too, the other thing that differs us from the US is, and Jason, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, or either of you guys, but from what I understand, in Canada, winning a fishing tournament is not a taxable affair. You're fishing for fun. And because you're fishing for fun, even if you pay for an event and even if you're incurring all sorts of costs, you're doing it for fun. It's not a living. So all your costs are not a tax write-off, and all your tournament winnings are not, you don't have to pay income tax on them. It's not the same in the States. In the States, you pay income tax on your tournament winnings. So there, it's much more of a business. Up here in Canada, it's for fun. It's just for fun.
It's a good point. Jay, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think you're right about, you know, we're kind of losing. We haven't lost, but we're losing that sort of grassroots piece where I think that a lot of us get into tournament fishing through the, you know, sort of that pro-am format, and whether that even through a club. You know, the technology does dictate how your amateurs, it dictates their experience, and that's changed. And you've even seen a lot of high-level tournaments, and this has happened. You know, I saw Steve's comment about Ray Scott. You know, so Ray started these pro tournaments back in the late 60s, early 70s. So it's been over 50 years. BASS celebrated its 50th anniversary, I want to say in 2020 or 2021. And, you know, for a good span of that time, tournament fishing was pro-am style, where you had co-anglers and anglers. And in fact, the co-angler side for many years, whether it was FLW or bass, was highly competitive. In fact, I can name a few anglers like Justin Lucas, who's a very well-known MLF angler, fished on the Bass Tour as well for a number of years. He made a name for himself fishing on the National Guard team in the FLW series as a co-angler. He did really well for himself. And when he made the move to the front of the boat, he already had sponsors in place because of his performance from the back of the boat. So that helped. That's one example of co-anglers who took advantage of that and grew their own brand and were able to excel enough and learned enough to go to the front of the boat, which is kind of the point of that whole process, that whole format. And we've kind of lost that now. I agree. I think the technology that we have does take away from that. But also, too, what was happening was there was a real push to, as tournaments became more expensive, I think you saw a lot of pro anglers say, well, I don't want to share my fish with someone from the back of the boat. I don't need to compete with that person as well as others. And so you saw this transition go from sort of co-anglers, and now you do have scrutineers, but it's hard to get enough scrutineers to do that job well. A lot of scrutineering is being taken over with cameras, which is actually not a bad thing, but it's a good thing, I think. But in the end, yeah, we've lost that. We've kind of lost touch with that grassroots piece that tournament fishing had. And some of that is because of price, and some of that's because of technology, and probably just the competitive nature of it. Anglers just don't compete well from the back of the boat anymore. You just can't.
No. And you're paying for half the gas, to go for that ride, right? And that's you're just going on a sightseeing ride pretty much, right?
Yeah,
that's the thing. So when it comes to cost, I don't see us having any effect on that anytime soon. The cost of these of participating and running these tournaments is only going to go up from here. I can't see it going down. So that has unfortunately solidified itself as a problem that's now and in the future. But of course, you talk about electronics, Jay, and some tournaments are starting to say enough with forward-facing sonar, that we're not going to allow it in our tournaments. Is that addressing the problem, in your opinion?
I think what they have to do is there's enough technology out there now. They can make the experience better for us watching it, right? So when it comes to forward-facing sonar, I think, and I see some of the comments in the chat about how it's boring now with forward-facing sonar. I take it on, but if you remember when Gussie won in Tennessee on the Tennessee River, that was the first time that I remember them actually using like picture in picture, where you were watching Gussie fish, and the commentators were not only commenting about Gussie's, like him standing there, but they were talking about the fish themselves on the screen and discussing fish behavior. And can we just fix this with some HDMI cables? Like I'm joking, but not joking. Like, why can't we be better at producing a better product? And truthfully, if you want to keep forward-facing sonar, if you want to stay positive with it, you need to engage the audience more to do that. So I don't know if I haven't seen the viewership numbers. I hear from Bass viewership numbers in general are up, but I don't know about that. Like, I wonder, are the viewers just basically tuning in for the weigh-in at the end of the day, or are they watching it all day long? I would argue that viewership might be down more for the actual watching of the tournament itself, versus I'm sure viewership is consistent for the weigh-in, because we all are fans of the sport and we love the weigh-in part of it as well, and that is a big draw. But I'm curious if we should just be embracing this is the technology they're using, so we need to provide a better product to the viewer to enjoy the sport more.
Couldn't agree more. I love Gary's comment up here, and Lawrence, and I'll have you address this with me. This is something that I saw as problematic and didn't really say too much, because of course we're always about the next generation of anglers. But unfortunately, when it comes to the Bass Tournament Trail, we kind of have lost the structure of hierarchy. You had the big names, right? You had those big names that, everybody was tuning in to see, because, they were the sticks. They were the go-tos. It was basically their tournament to lose. Now what we're seeing, and I know I've said it on live here many, many times, we want to embrace the next generation of anglers. Well, guys and gals, here they are. Like, we've seen on full display. You're now starting to see teenagers do extremely well on a lot of tournament trails, not just Bassmaster, but is that part of it, in your opinion, Lawrence, that we've sort of lost that hierarchy, if you will, the pecking order, where now it seems like anybody that has a shiny fast boat and enough live scope on it and understand how to use it, they've got a chance to do well?
Yeah, is it really fishing in the sense that, what we're supposed to and what we look for is where this angler who spends, a number of days getting in tune with that water body and the ecosystem, what's going on in terms of currents and clarity and temperature and time of season and prey availability, all these variables that they have to sort of process over 4 or 5 days of pre-fishing, and then they get an understanding of the lake, and they sort of get a good feel of where the fish are. That's fishing, right? That's fishing, not just showing up with some really cool technology and an accurate cast and a way to sort of interpret what you're seeing on the screen, and you drive your boat a little bit, but that's all they're doing. And there's people out there winning tournaments who just do that. They're fishing, but it's not the same.
And I will say that hierarchy, Jay, and you could attest to this, was done so by accomplishments. Like, you became spoken about on the Bassmaster Trail because you won tournaments, that you did well in tournaments. Now, I would almost make the argument that, is winning the tournament as important as having an incredible following? Because that seems to be the one that's generating ads. It seems to be the thing nowadays that's generating sponsorships. That part of losing that hierarchy is embracing what's going on with the social media, but unfortunately, it might be having adverse effects on how the pecking order is established. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. The industry's really changed. It was so performance-based before, and now it's a combination of, you still have to, I still believe you have to catch fish and be consistent. But the field is so competitive now that, like, we don't see these dominant anglers anymore, like Kevin Van Dam and others who, just basically stepped on the throat of their competition. Although, as I say that, Chris Johnson has done some incredible things early in his career, and he's approaching that. If he keeps being the way he is, I might eat my words here. But what I'm saying is, in the end, most anglers, to stand out, you have to be competitive, but you also have to know how to sell, and how to sell not just products, but sell your brand, so that they're not just investing in you, and not just companies. The public is investing in you because they're going to give you the more followers, the more engagement on social media. They're investing in your brand, not just you as an angler, but you as a person is a new thing now. And I think that the anglers that aren't embracing that, you're seeing them step away from their career, or at least take a step back. And the ones who are doing a good job at being competitive on the water, but also embracing their own personal brand and growing it, they're the ones who are being successful.
Yeah, I hear you, Jason. But you know what? It's a slimmer and slimmer field of these sponsored, ultra sponsored sort of superhero anglers. Because, first of all, you have these mega companies that have bought up all their competition, right? So, like I was fishing 20 years ago with sponsorships, and, you could easily have, a sponsor for every type of lure out there. Then, the big companies, they just bought them all up. They bought the lines, they bought the lure companies, they bought the rods and the reels, everything. So now it's just you're down to one company, and you got to get in line to get in that sponsorship from that company, because they, now they've just whittled the field of how many sponsors they need, because they're putting these people on social media and they're marketing the crap out of them, and they're making superstars out of them, and that's fine. That works, right? That's how they market now. But you see these companies, they get bought up, and the pro staff list goes with the company that's sold, and then the new company looks at that pro staff list and goes, "Oh, we're going to take this from a 200 down to 20." And I've seen that so many times. So it's, when you're sleeping in your truck and you're counting on all these sponsorships to pay your hotel bill and your gas bill and your entry fee, and all of a sudden the chances of getting that are getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer and slimmer, that's disheartening.
True. No, again, great point. And to your point, Jay, in regards to the elite anglers, and I don't want to come off as brash, and I certainly don't want to offend anybody, but I'm starting to hear a lot more that, let's take the CISA event. some would argue that having the Johnsons win that event was probably one of the worst results that they could have had. They dominate on that body of water, and with them winning like they did, and not handedly, I might add, but they did win. Well, they did a great job winning. That's all I can say. They were steady throughout the whole course of the weekend. But all of a sudden now it's like we don't want to beat the best. We kind of almost complain about, well, I don't want to pay because all I'm now paying is for the Johnsons. Have we gotten soft? Like, don't we want to beat the best? Like, isn't that the whole part of competition?
So I agree with what you're saying. I do think though that, you know, when it comes to sport, we still need we kind of still need different divisions. I think that is kind of important. And I think that, you know, we get back to like amateur sport versus professional sport. And I'm not saying I don't want to fish against the Johnsons. I would. I'd like to, you know, I like the level of competition. I'm a competitive person. I'm happy getting my butt kicked. I'm the first person to shake your hand and kick my butt. But at the same time, I wonder if there's a need for that, because you see, like Steve mentioned here about the shrinking of fields. And I wonder if there's a need for that, if there's a need to have divisions where, you know, basically if you're considered a certain level, you really shouldn't fish the other levels. And maybe, I don't know if that will help or not, but with the shrinking fields, I wonder if that's something that needs to be considered. What do you think, Lawrence?
Yeah, you know, it's always disheartening when you see the hot sticks show up at your tournament and you think, oh man, there's like that paycheck's gone and the top 3 paychecks are now gone. And you think, oh yeah, you're just fishing for scraps, right? And it's a little disheartening for sure. And you know, if you're not co-angling on those boats with those pros, that's why you stick around, because you think maybe once a year you'll get on that boat with that pro and you'll learn something. If, you know, in the co-angler, you know, kind of situation, or, you know, but you know, it's a gamble, right? You're just holding out with hope that you're going to end up on that guy's boat at some point in the year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think if we had teams like hockey and football and baseball, you know, they have teams. So they have a hot shot on the team or a couple of people that are paid a crap load of money, and then the rest of the team that supports them. In fishing, it's every person for themselves. So there's no, they don't need, the owners don't need to keep a whole team paid and fed and sheltered. They just need to keep the hot stick in good shape. So if that's what we're doing, if we're watching a lot of resources get concentrated into the hands of a few sort of superstars, you know, they're on their own. So there's no reason that the team, you know, and the rest of all the players have to be supported, because you're just looking at, you know, a handful of really hot sticks. And if it comes down to it, maybe that's all we'd be watching at some point. It's just, you know, 10, 15 people duking it out, even if that.
And then, of course, you know, I don't know who would be tasked with this, but you know, as Steve just mentioned here, it's like house league. You know, when you think about hockey, you have house league, and then of course you have the travel teams or rep teams. You know, who would evaluate these anglers? Who would be tasked to do something like this? I mean, the resource base that you'd have to incorporate would be like substantial. And unless you're paid to do it, I don't know anybody that would hit the books to try and decide who and what league certain people are in. Do you see that perhaps as something down the road, Jay, that we could see, you know, a league established and possibly standings?
I think so. And I think I like the idea of having leagues and having, you know, I do love the formats where, like, for example, like you look at the highest levels where you look at Bassmaster and MLF, and where you fish for points and everyone's all in. You don't see anyone cherry picking events, right? You have to fish them all to be successful. And then you get to prove who is the best angler, right? And I know for a lot of amateurs, that's not possible. The money involved to fish a circuit like that is just not going to happen. So right away, there's a reason to have two different tiers right there. Right. So, you know, but is there enough of an industry to support these top tier, not just tournaments, but actually tournament trails? That's tough. Geez, I wonder what the secret recipe was back when GM Pro Bass and prior to that OV Pro Bass, like how they were so successful. I was too young then to I was probably in my I remember being a scrutineer at one of the GM Pro Basses on Rice Lake. I want to say in 1999. I think that was one of the last years that they had it. So that's how long it's been. And yeah, I was 19 or 20 years old. No, I was old. I was like 21 or 22. And I was living in Peterborough at the time. So, that's 30 years ago. It doesn't seem that long, but it's been 30 years since we've had that sort of high level trail in Ontario. And yeah, I don't know if we can sustain that anymore. It's unfortunate, but I'd like to see that, because then you get to see who's the best of the best amongst who we have in Ontario, at least at our level. Does that make sense, Scotty?
It makes perfect sense. And unfortunately, to your point, we're not seeing those payouts like we used to back then as well. Like, I mean, when I hear that the payouts were like $60,000 to $80,000, I mean, we don't see anything like that nowadays. It's hard to get a payout. With CISA handing out the kind of money they did this year, that was historic, because we haven't seen those totals in a very long time. To go a little bit further, because I wanted to get to Sonia's comment, Lawrence, and I'm going to get you to jump in on this. 15, 20 years ago, if you had told me I had a choice between watching a how-to video on fishing or the tournament circuit, I would have voted for the tournament circuit every day of the week and twice on Sunday. However, now, with social media, with YouTube, with some of these very creative folks out there, as Sonia says, to her, it would be more entertaining to put a bunch of anglers on an island and force them to make their own raft and fishing rods and see how many fish they catch. To her, that would be more interesting than currently what we have now. And I have to say, I almost agree. Some of the videos that are out there, the how-tos, because we learn. Like that's what we've been put on this earth to do, is to learn and adapt. And we love seeing people show us new things. And not to say that bass tournaments don't do that for us, but there's a new entertainment value when it comes to angling. And seeing some of these 10-minute, 15-minute long segments that folks have edited and made it certainly appealing to anglers, because we love to fish, but it just goes a little bit more in depth on the how-to, and it breaks certain things down. And I have to say, and I'm going to ask you if you agree, to me it could be a little bit more interesting than watching a tournament trail. Would you agree?
I watch a lot of YouTube. Like, I don't do a lot of Facebook surfing or Instagram, but I watch a lot of YouTube, because you can dial in and you can get the things you're looking for. And there's a lot of really good instructional, educational type videos there that are well narrated, and you learn a lot from these people. I think there's something to be said for that. 20 years ago, a friend of mine was part of a study that they launched to determine how many TV shows there were, fishing TV shows. There was 117 fishing TV shows in Canada and the United States. How many can you count now? I mean, 5, 4? The sponsorships on those all dried up. They're gone. They're gone. So exactly that, right? You don't have to pay to have these people, drive around, Canada, fishing these beautiful lakes, staying in these hotels and lodges. And you don't have to pay for their salaries and the camera people and the editing people, all those salaries, when you can just, you don't need to do it. You can just have give some young guy or gal a bit of money, and they're getting their viewers. They're getting their money from the viewers anyways, right? From the number of viewers they get on YouTube. So they don't even need that sponsorship money so much anymore. It's just, it's all about numbers and the YouTube. I think, but Jason, I'll disagree with you on one thing though. I think if you stop letting top anglers fish with the amateurs and the wannabe top anglers, I think it's a death sentence for those smaller leagues, because a lot of people join those clubs because they want the prestige of fishing with so and so. I fish with so and so on that tournament stream. They're paying for that privilege, but it's part of the whole vibe and the whole sort of, this is I'm fishing at that level. You might never be cashing a check, and you might be bringing a lot of zeros to the board at the end of every tournament, but you're fishing with these top shelf sticks. And that's really all you want, is you just want to be associated with them. That's how you're paying for that honor to hang around with these people. And I've seen clubs where they've lost those people, and everyone's just looking around and go, I'm fishing with you guys. I'm not going to pay to fish with you guys. And they just drift apart.
Yeah.
It's true. And Jay, obviously, because you have a young, inspiring young angler that is making his way up the ranks of social media, I have to take that argument that Lawrence was getting to a little bit further and say, it's how can I say this without being disrespectful? You can go out and win a mass tournament and have the same prestige as someone that gets so many likes and views on YouTube, and the monetary reward for that is starting to me, that bridge the gap. Why would I go fish a bass tournament where it's going to cost me this much money? I'm going to have to deal with safety issues and of course the cheating that goes along with it, when I could just go out, grab a GoPro and make hundreds of, maybe thousands of dollars on a YouTube video of my journey. You know what I mean? Like we went those OVs and those GM series because we wanted to see the big gyms. We wanted to see the Babazumis. We wanted to see these folks that we wanted to aspire to. Social media, YouTube, and all that has come. It's wonderful technology, but it is erased. I believe that we don't have mentors like we used to back in the day. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, I'll tell you straight up. Trevor and I have had conversations about this, and he so when we first got into kayak fishing, and we still kayak fish a lot, and we will still fish kayak tournaments. We still love the competition. But I think if you asked him today, what would he rather do? Would he rather just fish, like travel around and fish kayak tournaments and even go to the US and travel around? And if money wasn't an object, I think that he would rather be full-time making content than fishing kayak tournaments. If he could do one or the other, which one would he rather do? You can either fish kayak tournaments and not make content, or you just made full-time content and shared your story. He would pick number two. I almost guarantee it. That's what he would do, because he sees the value in that. He enjoys the engagement with people. And I know he's not the only person and it's not just an age thing. I think he's kind of looked at the price it is to do things and making a living and having an income and things like that. He takes that into effect, and he's like, I could probably much more enjoyable making content and sharing my experiences with others out there and building on that engagement. I really think that's where he's at. Whereas 3 years ago, I think he'd rather just fish tournaments, but not worry about the engagement part. But he likes the other side of it now, because I kudos to a lot of folks on here who have engaged with him, and he's built his confidence up. But I think that's honestly where his mind's at now. He'd rather invest that time and money in more cameras and microphones and a new laptop, and he would rather do that. He sees more value, and he sees value in both, but more value in that social media content side. He really does. And I don't
necessarily disagree with them, because at the end of the day, it's whatever brings pleasure to you. And if tournament angling at that level of competition might not be your thing, and I know sometimes competition can bring out the best in people, but it can also bring out the worst. And as as Mark has said, I still love tournament angling just because of all the drama. So we beat to death this topic, and I will ask both of you, if you could, if Bassmaster were to knock on your door and say, hey, listen, Jay and Lawrence, we want a half an hour of your time to improve our tournament series. I'll let you go first, Lawrence. What would you advise Bassmaster to do to increase their following and the longevity of their brand?
I would say that, when they're lobbying industry for sponsorships for the tournament series, that they also work into that deals where that flows down to all the anglers, right? All the competitors. So now you got, I'm told 80% of the people that compete at that level are not making money. They are successful business people that are using their income from their businesses to go fishing. And that's how they're supporting themselves. And that's fine, but that really narrows the field, doesn't it? Because if you don't have that successful business to pay your fees and travel and all that stuff, you're not in, you're out. So if they really wanted to get the best of the best fishing these tournament series, they would find a way to cover the cost, just like a baseball team or football team. No one gets left behind. Everyone's taken care of. And then you have that could make it a little more interesting, I think.
It's good. I appreciate that. Jay, Bassmaster knocks on your door, says, you know what? Bring Trevor up here. We want to sit down. We want to talk about how we improve our series, how we get more engagement. What do we do to ensure our longevity in the years to come?
I think they have to re-engage with the grassroots piece of it that Ray Scott built back in the day. And I think that now Ray was a showman. He wanted the show. Like, there's images of him riding in on elephants into stadiums, right? Like it was a circus, and I say that in a good way. Like he wanted the big top, the big time, all of that. But I think that, and that brought people to the sport, but I think that we still need to see to re-engage that grassroots piece of it. Now, I will give Bass credit where they've started to rebuild the sport a little bit in terms of looking at, Bruce brings up casting kids and juniors and we've seen the growth of high school programs in the US to the point where they've had to pull back a bit because the tournaments were getting so big and honestly not manageable in terms of an experience. Like you have 400 boats at a high school tournament, like the weigh-ins. I heard stories of tournaments starting at 6 a.m. and boats on the water at 4 a.m. and the last boats were weighing in at 7 p.m. at night and then doing it again the next day. That was too big. So Bass is trying to figure out a formula that works, but they're starting to reinvest in their youth programs, and we're starting to see that grow. And I hope that momentum at the younger end continues, because you're seeing this now with a lot of the top end elites. They're coming from the college ranks. That's where they're coming from. And we need to continue to grow that. In saying that, though, we are seeing this demographic shift in youth. So we're seeing more and more youth at the top level. And we're losing a lot of our veterans that we would call veterans. And I think the average age is dropping of bass pros. And some of that is because of this influx of youth coming in. But I think that's where the momentum is. And I think we have to continue encouraging youth to come in, because that's what will grow the sport. And especially, and social media is a good example of that. A lot of the best social media accounts out there are these younger professional anglers that are coming in the ranks. So continue that growth, but don't forget about the grassroots. Don't forget about that. We need to grow that too.
Amen. I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, gentlemen, as always, you are a wealth of information, and we truly appreciate wading in on this. Jay, as I said, I knew you wanted to talk about it because when you sent me the link, it's not something that you typically would send. So I knew it was something that you wanted to discuss. And for that, I'm glad we did, because we certainly have gotten to the bottom of where we're at. And certainly we are engaging on what we need to look at moving forward in order to keep it growing. We see it with the kayak angling. We see it with ladies angling tonight. It was on full display. We need to get back to what makes sense. And I hope folks are listening, and I hope folks are willing to adapt, because let's be honest, not a lot of us like change. So whatever it is that we do has to be subtle enough to make it successful, but not too drastic, so that we lose folks along the way. Would you agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Well, thanks so much for spending yet another Monday with us. We will be here next Monday. It'll be our Christmas edition. It'll be a Christmas theme because I can't believe we're so close to that.
I know.
It's unbelievable.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
It's 10 days away. Like, are you kidding me? It seems like we were just on the water sweating to death, in search of bass and walleye and all these other wonderful things. But now it's all frozen over.
You got 9 days to shop, buddy. Don't worry. You got 9, before you even have to start the truck, you got 9 days. Then you got 1 day to shop. You're good.
That's it. It's so true.
No pressure.
Thanks again, gentlemen. Really appreciate your time. Really appreciate what you bring to our community. We look forward to it each and every Monday. So God bless you. We'll see you next week.
All right.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you.
Dave, take us away.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.